Quote.
Welcome back. You're watching SA Today on SABC News. The National Assembly holds an oral question and answer session with the economic cluster ministers, including public enterprises, tourism and trade and industry. Let's listen in once again.
That all three spheres of government must release land for land reform and don't just point the finger at national government. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will go to the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, has your department done an exercise as to exactly how much of land is available in South Africa from all spheres of government that might be suitable for housing, given the fact that, and I think you're aware of it, that many of these municipalities, Cape Town I think has got about 500,000, eThekwini's got about 500,000, all on waiting list. And secondly, and this is a problem countrywide, Minister, and I'm asking this so that we could ensure we make land available for housing throughout the country instead of allowing people to live under dangerous ground. But very importantly, a Jackie Joseph from Sitsikama has been writing to your department, land that fell under the former Prime Minister John Foster. 15 hectares are standing there, and he's looking to grow hemp, he's looking to be able to grow wheat. He's written to your department since 2020 and no response. If you haven't received that, Minister, I request that you can get that information and that correspond to him. Thank you, ma'am.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Sheikh Imam. Certainly, I would like to see that correspondence and go and investigate what was the response from the department, because in terms of GIAMA, the Government Immovable Asset Management Act, there is a process to be followed where people have to make an application and then it goes through public participation and all of that. And I will appreciate if the member can assist me with that information. Well, 2 state land audits has been done, and I have answered in many parliamentary questions the details of the state land audits. The one was done in 2014 and the one in 2017. If you look at that land audit, you will see exactly what amount of hectares of land will we need to transform and to make sure that we integrate our country. So the audits are there, but we need to take now our lead from the National Spatial Development Framework that will be approved shortly. And that National Spatial Development Framework must guide us where we must build houses, what is zoned for agriculture, what is zoned for commercial, because the time is long overdue. 28 years in our democracy, we must integrate this country and especially our cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, question number 257 has been asked by the Honourable Chabalala to the Minister of Public Enterprises.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to Honourable Chabalala. The Transnet Railway operates rail's historical underinvestment in infrastructure and maintenance backlog dating back to the 1990s has resulted in an aged and unreliable network that does not support the efficient movement of trains. Whilst this constraint impacts Transnet's ability to fully exploit the increasing demand of coal, the interventions that TFR, as it is called, has put into place to deal with the maintenance backlog has started to show some improvement. In recent months, TFR has ramped up maintenance on the North Corridor with up to 26 planned maintenance events per day, with major maintenance and activities conducted during the annual shutdown plan for July 2022. A significant amount of work has been undertaken internally to improve procurement time frames for key contracts, which have been a significant cause for delays in the is passed. The finalization of major power material and on-track machine contacts has led to faster and more efficient resolution of historical and new maintenance issues as they arise. Given the increased focus on maintenance on the corridor, TFR expects to increase or remove 42% of the current speed restrictions by the end of July. This will mean that an additional 6 stops will be restored, which will result in more volume for both the customer and TFR itself. However, to take full advantage of the opportunities that are available and to decrease the cost of conducting business in South Africa, we must urgently restore the network back to acceptable international A standards. With some 30,000 track kilometers, this will require massive investment boosts. The other constraint of performance is the unavailability of locomotives to service the corridor. The impact of setting aside the 1064 locomotive program has reduced Transnet freight rail's overall system capacity for the transportation of coal to Richards Bay Coal Terminal from an annual capacity of 77 million tons to an annual capacity of 60 million tons. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Jay Shabalala from the Chamber.
No, I'm not Jay Shabalala, but I'll take the question.
You are replacing her.
Yes.
You may proceed, Honorable Member.
With reference to the government's limited funding for the state-owned corporations, in what ways will Transnet implement structural reforms intended to build private sector confidence and engage in new infrastructure investment in the context of public and public-private partnerships? Thanks, Chair.
Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Dlamini. Chairperson, structural reforms is a very important part and very central to the reforms that we require in South Africa and which are currently monitored in the presidency through Operation Wooden Lever. Key amongst those has been firstly the establishment of the Transnet National Ports Authority, which was done last year as an independent subsidiary of Transnet. And the Ports Authority plays a very important part as landlord on the one hand, but ushering in ships and providing other services at our ports. The second element in this particular regard is to extend the port facilities, for example, at Durban, but at other ports as well, through investment both by Transnet, which has limited finances, and through public sector participation, private sector participation as well. And I've made reference to this earlier in the day in relation to the new terminal proposed at the Durban Harbour, at Mumuka, at Richards Bay, and later at other ports as well, including East London. And those reforms will also assist particularly exporters and importers in various parts of the country. The third element is to restore, as I've just indicated, the rail capacity and the rail efficiency to a completely new level and adequate international standard. That will ensure that rail operations become truly efficient and become cost effective for the commercial sector to utilize instead of roads, as we discussed earlier in the afternoon. And that will change the picture as far as logistics in South Africa is concerned by moving the transportation of goods from road to rail as well.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, thank you very much. The second supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Kachalia.
It's common cause that Transnet rail and ports woes have contributed to huge losses in potential earnings to our coal miners, even as global constraints on supply, a surge in prices for thermal coal of at least 46% in Asia, and rocketing gas prices are the order of the day. In belated recognition of this public enterprise failure, government is now seeking private sector involvement, which we applaud. Will the Minister, though, without tired reference to force majeure, the eventuality of which we warned against time and time again, tell us by what date and on what terms?
1 second, Honorable Kachala. May the front table assist us. If there's anyone that switches off the mic, please just mute him or eject him if he does it for the second time. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Thank you. Will the Minister, though, without tired reference to force majeure, the eventuality of which we warned against time and time again, tell us by what date and on what terms the much-needed private sector onboarding will take place?
Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks, Honorable Jawed. The fact that there is huge demand for coal is certainly an acknowledged fact, particularly arising from the current events in Europe, but also the increased demand for coal in the eastern part of the world as well. And of course, there's been increased profits for coal miners as a result of the increase in coal prices of the world as well. And of course, there's been increased profits for coal miners as a result of the increase in coal prices as well. I've just explained that due to limitations, firstly on the security front, secondly in terms of the absence of the complete set of 1064 locomotives and inefficiencies within the rail system itself, including vandalism, all of these factors have conspired against Transnet Rail being able to do its best in this particular regard. The reference to force majeure, it's not a tired reference, was in fact a basis upon which the coal companies and Transnet have been negotiating a new set of contracts, an addenda to contracts, the status of which should have reached a point where there's some finalization between the two parties, but I'm not totally briefed on that at this stage. And nobody can say exactly what date and on what terms the private sector participation will occur. The process has been initiated. The RFIs and RFQs and so on have been issued. Those need to be properly processed. They need to be diligently examined. And finally, negotiations need to take place between the chosen parties and Transnet to the satisfaction of both. So at this point in time, let us say that that is a process that is in motion. And once we have greater clarity, we can certainly advise Parliament on that. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question. Honourable members, point of order.
Chair, I didn't want to disturb the Minister because he was reading very carefully, but it's very clear that when the ANC asks a minister a question, they have a prepared answer to read. But when a member of the opposition asks, then they have nothing to read. And it really makes a mockery of this question session.
Okay.
Point of order, Chairperson of the session, Judith Chabalala on virtual.
Honourable JT, allow me just to...
Yes. Thank you.
A little bit. Thank you very much.
It's out of order. Thanks.
Honourable Fixen, you know very well that is not a point of order. It's a point of debate in your perception. Shall we proceed and take the supplementary question? The third supplementary question will be asked by Honourable Mautwe. Honourable Mautwe. Why is it 3 minutes? Order, honourable members.
All right. That was, of course, the economic clusters ministers answering questions in Parliament. There, we certainly heard from Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Patricia de Lille. They're answering questions on the land issue for purposes of transformation. We're going to take a short break and come back after this.
SABC News brings you all the latest stories from around South Africa and the world.
I'm Frances Hurd. When I first approach an interview, I try to think, what do you as the audience really want answers to? Those are the pertinent questions, and I don't shy away from those.
The body of South Africa has been wounded by corruption, unemployment and poverty. It needs the strong medicine of accountability. I'm Iman Rapeti, and I'll be using my years in the field to excavate the truth and get the answers.
I'm Bongi Wezwane. At times, the news can be emotional and overwhelming, but even under those circumstances, I will deliver the facts.
We are here every day to deliver the top stories on The Full View.
Not in front of your TV, no problem, because you can live stream the show on SABC News, the app, and you can catch all the interviews, all the headlines on virtually any device.
Independent and impartial, right here on the SABC News channel, every day between 5 and 8 p.m.
All right, let's go back to Parliament then, where the National Assembly is holding an oral question and answer session with the economics cluster ministers, including public enterprises, tourism and trade and industry.
In one respect or another, I'm not sure what you take back. So the fact of the matter is that the country and the coal industry understand that there's a shortage as far as locomotives are concerned, and that limits the capacity of Transnet Rail to do the work that it is required to do. As far as coal is concerned and the just energy transition is concerned, Chairperson, it is fairly clear, both from the IRP 19, but also discussions at COP26 and future discussions at future COPs as well, that coal will be a part of the global energy system, although on a declining basis for some time to come. And our responsibility in South Africa is to contribute to a decarbonization process. And if all of the other work that is being done within Transnet, in the next couple of years, Transnet will return itself to a world-class logistics company. And I'm quite confident of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary question, honorable members, will be asked by Honorable Buthelezi.
It will be asked by Zondo on behalf of Honorable Buthelezi.
You may proceed, honorable member, but you must note that what is written here in terms of your submission, it says Buthelezi, but nevertheless proceed.
Honorable Minister, given the global debate on phasing out of fossil fuel and the phasing in of all emissions emitted technology, in line with the ultimate goal of reducing emissions to reduce the global warming, and the fact that Eskom generates the bulk of its electricity from coal-fired power station, does the department have plans in place to not only profit from the use of coal, but also to invest in the technology to achieve the balance of reducing the climate change as advised by the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change? Please provide full details. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable the Minister.
Honorable Zondo, thank you very much. Government, as has been indicated on various occasions, most recently last year, prior to the COP26 event that took place in Glasgow, where the President signed a statement together with several other world leaders, government is committed to reducing the usage of fossil fuels. It is true that 41% approximately of carbon emissions in South Africa is through the production of electricity. And that is why Eskom, for some time now, has been preparing its own just energy transition. That is how it will decommission certain power stations and ensure at the same time that under the umbrella of the IRP 19, there is a replacement of the megawatts that will be lost as a result of the decommissioning of coal power stations. So that balance and that roadmap is certainly in place. And as soon as money is available, you've heard about the $8.5 billion that certain countries have made available for some elements of the costs of this transition process, including the retraining of workers, both in coal mines, but particularly at power stations. Those are all contributions towards reducing carbon emissions in South Africa and meeting the target of 1.5 degrees that South Africa has committed itself to. Eskom itself, of course, does not profit from the utilization of coal. The coal industry certainly does profit from the selling of coal, both to Eskom and to the world as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Question number 277 has been asked by Honourable Macpherson to the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition. We have been informed that the Minister will be answering the question from the Chamber. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honourable Macpherson, Honourable Members. Food prices have gone up sharply both in South Africa and globally. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization's database, between February and March this year, global food prices saw the largest single month increase in more than 30 years. South Africa imports about 84 billion rands worth of agriculture and food products annually. So these trends affect local consumers very substantially. The World Bank about 9 days ago issued a food security brief that identifies a number of causes driving food prices, and it's worth quoting. They say, even before COVID-19 reduced incomes and disrupted supply chains, chronic and acute hunger were on the rise due to various factors, including conflict, socioeconomic conditions, natural hazards, climate change, and pests. The impact of the war in Ukraine adds risk to global food security, with food prices likely to remain high for the foreseeable future and expected to push millions of additional people into food insecurity. And then they go on and provide information, for example, that as of April 2022, the agricultural price index is up 43% compared to January 2021. Maize and wheat prices are 56% and 55% higher respectively, while rice prices are the only ones that have come down by 17%. They continue by saying the war in Ukraine is a major shock for global commodity markets, affecting wheat, maize, edible oils, and fertilizers. And then they provide information on the extent of fertilizer price rises, 20% up since January, 3 times higher compared to a year ago. These are extraordinary increases. I can add, of course, the impact of rising oil prices will affect the entire food value chain. Domestic supply chains were also affected by, among others, COVID-19, and the recent floods in KZN will have a significant impact on food prices. On the other hand, the data seems to suggest that food prices of locally produced products have increased at a slower rate than the number of imported items over the last 3 months. Favorable weather and good local crops for certain products have also assisted to keep prices lower than they otherwise would have been, except of course now with the floods. To address high food prices, government has taken a number of measures. I want to highlight a few. First, we've supported efforts to scale up local production of food products in both agriculture and food processing. This included the announcement of a special fund by Delrad and IDC to support local farmers, by PepsiCo to support small-scale farmers, and by the DTIC to sugar farmers affected by the July 2021 unrest. Local retailers have been encouraged to support local producers. DTIC supported the building of a new 1.3 billion rand edible oil refinery plant in Richards Bay. Second, the competition authorities have been monitoring food markets, which included an investigation into sudden price rises, as was the case with garlic and ginger, honourable members will recall, and it's now launched a market inquiry into fresh food produce, which will look at the structure of the market and whether that contributes to higher food prices. Third, the DTIC has put conditions to new tariff measures to contain price rises. Recent tariff adjustments have sought to peg price rises to no more than the rise in the CPI and or another appropriate price index. Fourth, National Treasury announced a reduction in the general fuel levy, which is expected to save 120 Rand each time a farmer fills up a Hilux bakkie. And finally, the DTIC and Dalrad has put industry partnerships together in the sugar and poultry sectors and cooperated with the citrus industry to address their concerns to expand South African exports of citrus fruits. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honourable Mafikson.
Thank you, Minister, for the comprehensive response. And I think that we can all agree that South Africans are battling and buckling under the price increases that they are being subjected to. And people are battling to feed their families. Children are going hungry. Malnutrition is on the increase. And it is really difficult for families across the length and breadth of the country. But the government has to shoulder some blame for the increases that we're seeing. For many, many years, government has put massive tariffs on many products into this country with the notion of trying to create industries while locking out imports into this country. And we've seen that with cement, with steel, poultry prices, administered prices by government contribute to the increase in goods and services in this country. Electricity increases are out of control, and so are water. So the government did the right thing, Minister, by relaxing the duty on fuel. That was the correct thing to do. So do you think that it's not the right thing to do to relax tariff and VAT on critical protein sources like poultry that feeds millions of South Africans and keeps hunger at bay for them? Thank you very much.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you for the supplementary question, Honourable McPherson. I think you're absolutely right that ordinary South Africans are battling to feed their families, and that we need to think of ways in which we can enhance quality of lives and bring down the price of basic foods. One of the challenges we face is the trade-off between jobs and prices. And in an area like the poultry industry, as an example, it's a significant employer of labor. We're trying to encourage many more small-scale black poultry farmers to come in and supply commercial markets. And so we've got to find that right balance to ensure that South Africans also have jobs at an unemployment rate that is really at about 40%. Job creation is absolutely fundamental, and we've got to address that. At the same time, I think you correctly point to a number of challenges with tariff increases. When tariffs on imported goods go up, there is the tendency, this is how markets work. When you create protection, in all likelihood, prices will rise. So what we're seeking to do now is to mitigate that by putting conditions to, for when applicants put in an application, to require them to commit not to increase prices beyond either the PPI or the CPI. That is one element of it. The other part is, of course, to increase supply. The law of demand and supply indicates that if you can produce many more products and scale up the quantities, you can bring down the unit prices. Energy remains an enormous challenge, and a deep industrialization of the food value chain would be enhanced as we overcome the energy blockages. And Minister Gordon is, of course, working very closely with Eskom to see how we can fix the institution and help to bring down the long-term energy price point.
All right, Minister Ibrahim Patel, they're addressing Parliament as economic cluster ministers are answering questions in Parliament. Well, that's it from me, Flo Ledwaba, and the rest of the team here at SA Today. Thanks very much for being with us this afternoon. We're back with you again tomorrow from 3 p.m. and I'll leave you with the full view. Please continue to take care of yourselves. Cheers.